Hello there, everybody. This is Mr. D. Um, Sabbath. Um, Actually, this is a retake of the one I did last night. So, um, I wanted to make sure everybody hits the subscribe button, and at the end, if you like it, hit the like button. And this story is an interesting story, and I thought so when I played it the first time. This is about, I thought, Elijah, that prophet of God that performed lots of miracles that we have heard stories about, but it's not. It's about, I want to say his servant, but I think it's like he was their mentor. He was his follower and a follower of God. It has to be because the story has to do with him. So the question is, what's the story about? The story takes place not too long after Elijah left and went to heaven in a fiery chariot, which is mentioned in, I think, 2 Kings 2. It looks like number 10. And his servant, his follower, his trainee, he watched him go up to heaven. That must have been a really amazing thing to see. A chariot comes, a fiery chariot, and to take someone who you love and cherish into heaven. Wondering if we ever going to see him again. But he's going to heaven. And before he left, his servant, which I'm going to call Elisha, not Elijah. I get my first recording. Elisha wanted to take over where Elisha left off. And I think that was the whole intention of God, was to have a follower, a person to take over where Elijah left off. Well, Elisha is referred to in the Bible is one of God's messengers. You know, we are messengers too. We just may not have the same power as Elijah and Elisha had, but we could. I believe we could. There's other people in the Bible that had abilities to perform miracles, the ability to cross waters and have them part like it did in Elisha, and in Moses, and I think in Joshua's case. The power of God in them. Now, this story that I'm going to tell you today is about a king that was upset, a king of Syria. And according to the Bible, it says, let me see here, in chapter 6. Yeah, in chapter 6. Let me put this so I can see it better. It's kind of hard to see from where I'm looking at. And we're going to do this. See if my head looks good and everything. And it's Syria. That's where the king's from. And they have a problem with the Syrians, the Israelites. Why? I don't know. Maybe because they wanted to take over and they were having some trouble. Well, apparently, he wanted to know how the Israelites knew what he was doing. And he called all his people in. And he called them in and he asked them, how is it that the Israelites know what I'm doing? And they said, this man of God that Israel had, was he was telling your secrets from your bedroom that nobody else knew. But you know what? God knows all of our secrets, and all of our secrets can't be hidden from him, not even a little one. We need to remember that God is there all the time. You know, the book of life is clicking as you're speaking. So what did the king do? I'm going to read a little bit. It might make it easier for me to express if we know exactly what's going on. And I am going to start reading. Actually, my Bible starts at verse 8, but I think I put it down for verse 10. So we're going to start 8. It says that now the king of Syria was making war against Israel. Always making war, just like Joshua. When I read Joshua, fighting, taking over land, everything. But this time, this is coming from the people who don't like Israel, who probably have beef with them. And he says, and he took counsel with his servants, saying, my camp will be in such a place. He's telling this to his servants, or his leaders, his captains, his warriors. And the man of God sent to the king of Israel, saying, beware that you do not pass this place, for Syrians are coming down there. And the king of Israel sent someone to the place of which the man of God had told him. Thus he warned him, and he was watchful there, not just once or twice. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was greatly troubled by this thing. And he called his servants and said to them, will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? Who's my traitor? Who's on their side? And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha, Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel that the words that you speak are your bedroom. Now, that's pretty amazing. That's almost like Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel coming in and Daniel telling him all about his dreams, but Daniel wasn't there when the dream went on, but he knows. God knows. God told him. So he said, go and see where he is, that I may send to get him. And it was told him, saying, surely he is in Dothan. You know where else? Where it is said in the Bible, very important time, where the king asked these wise men to tell him, so where this new baby was being born called Jesus. He wanted to go over and say hi and thank you and give him honors and all kinds of gifts. But I think the wise men had some idea that he might not be telling the truth, which he wasn't. And of course, we all know that. He was out to cut Jesus to pieces and stop him from being the Messiah that he was to be, that God sent him. But God was there. God was protecting Jesus, and God made sure these wise men did not tell him by sending him off in another direction. They were placed in another place. So we continue on, and it says here, therefore he sent horses and chariots and great armies there. They came by night and surrounded the city where the God's servant prophet was. It's like Elisha is about to be done in. But you remember, this is God's prophet. And I believe we still have in our world probably people who God still talks to in a very understandable means. I know we get impressions. We know we feel that God's talking to us. But you ever get that time when you were going down the road and you hear something? It would be a rain. It may not be some little voice you don't know about that I believe is God. I believe God's talking to us. I believe he's talking to all of us. It's whether we listen or not. Now, what does that have to do with this so-called prophet? The difference was this prophet allowed God to control his life like we should. And because of that, the powers of Elijah, when he asked Elisha to give him double portion of his ability, which I believe was found on, let's see, that was Second Kings chapter 2, verse 9. And it said here, and so it was when they had crossed over, and Elisha said to Elisha, ask, what may I do for you? That's a pretty open question, I think. what can I do for you? And Elisha said, please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. Now, Elijah was in like one-on-one with God. I mean, anybody that can take and hop in a fiery chariot and take a ride to heaven has to be in pretty good standings with God. I mean, I'd love to go to heaven that way. I'd love to have the adrenaline of feeling that God thought that much of me to take me home that way. But we don't know exactly how we're going to be going home except through the sky to heaven when the second coming comes. Maybe it's chariots. We don't know. We'll know when we get there and when the time comes. So back in chapter 6, again, where we left off, at the sea here, and 15, and when the servant of the man of God, Elisha, arose early and went out, there was an army surrounded the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, alas, my master, what shall we do? And almost surrounded by all these swords, spears, and they're out to get this one man, Elisha. So he answered, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Now, I'm sure when he made that statement that his servant looked at him and kind of questioned, we don't have any people in this place. We don't have all these kind of warriors that they do out there. What are we going to do? I mean, they have more than we do. And Elisha said, Elisha prayed in verse 17 and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. This is the servant he's talking to. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. What did he see? And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire, the same probably chariot that Elijah went up into, all around Elisha. All around where he was at, he was protected by these chariots and these soldiers, warriors from God. That would be so unbelievable, so amazing. I have to say, I would just, I wouldn't have, I'd be unbelievably impressed with that. So when the Syrians came down to him, Elijah prayed to the Lord and said, strike the people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. Now, this is kind of an answer, this phrase, this part of the Bible, about actually something being done to people, something different than Sodom and Gomorrah, something different than Noah, the flood. I question, does God take a personal one-on-one vengeance on people, where he actually goes out and his soldiers, his angels, the warriors from heaven, go out and slew all of the soldiers? I haven't gotten into those stories yet, but I'm waiting to see. But then when I was asking God about that, when did he ever do that? Then I read the Second Kings about Elisha striking a blind. And it says, wow, can you imagine a whole army out there, like say in World War II, if all the Japanese or all the Germans all of a sudden became blind and didn't know where they were? Well, that's what happened to the Syrians. All their soldiers became blind. Now Elisha said to them, this is not the way nor the city. He corrected them. They were in the wrong place and that he wasn't really there. This is some other place. They need to go to the right place. So follow me and I'll bring you to the man whom you are seeking, which was him, of course. But he led them to the Samaria. Oh, that's not good. He's getting ready to attack the Syrians. not the Syrians, but Sumerians. So it was when they had come to the Sumerians, Elijah said, the Lord did something cool. I realized that all of these Syrians are now in the presence of the Sumerian king and the Samaria warriors. And all these people are all around them, you know? And they've become now able to see. And it starts off 21. Now, when the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elijah, my father, shall I kill them? Shall I kill them? And he answered, you shall not kill them. Would you kill those whom you have taken captive with your sword and your bow? Set food and water before them, and they may eat and drink and go to their master. Then he prepared a great feast for them. And after they ate and drank, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the band of Syrian raiders came no more into the land of Israel. Now, he sends them off. He doesn't appear to kill them, but I definitely think something bad probably came about it. And it goes on to verse 24. The Syrians didn't learn. Syria didn't learn. And they went up against the Syrians again. They don't learn. But the Syrians were made blind. The impressiveness of this story is the power of God. The God to strike them blind. He could have killed them, but he didn't. He led them to the king and left it up to the king to make his decision. Is that good? Was that bad? Was the man of king of Syria, Sumerian, doing what God wanted him to do? Did God send him there to be killed? Did God send him there for the Syrians to realize that God was more powerful? I don't know. But the visual of those soldiers being there when you can't see them is no different than now. My wife always said that when she'd sit down, Jesus was there, always. And that's the way we should be, that Jesus is with us everything we do. He's there to fight for us. He's there to help us. He's here to guide us. He's there for everything. You know, I think stories like this that are told about war are there to help us to realize that God's there and to helping us make our decision and to not jump into the conclusions ourselves, to make a decision as a man and not the way God wants us to act. I personally, studying the Bible and trying to determine, is the solution to God through war? Is the solution to God through peace? Are we supposed to bend backwards when there's conflict? I'm a very passive individual. My wife believes a little bit more in being direct than I do. Is it better to be more direct and negatory and harsh on people? Is it better to be not harsh, passive, and try to work it out with conversation? I believe in situations that conversation may not always work, like the king sending down so-called peacemakers, which are their soldiers, to find who they're looking for to so they could kill them, is not the answer. I know before I did this story and I went back and reviewed it about Elijah did confront the opposing kings that were coming after him. with a little bit more immediate, direct response that Elisha did when the soldiers came to take him in. And according to my Bible in 2 King, probably go all the way back to chapter 1. The king says here, hold on, let me find it. The king, what's the king's name? It's all the way up near the very beginning of 2 King. And it looks like it refers to Ahazah, Ahazih. And it talks about him all the way down where he's looking for, let me just read it. Moab rebelled against Israel to the death of Ahab. And now Ahab fell through the lattice to his upper room in Samaria and was injured. So he sent messengers and he said to them, go inquire about Baal Zehab, a god of Ekron, whether I shall recover from his injury. Now, my understanding is Samaria later on in the attack of Elisha was part of the Israelites. But this king wanted to contact a different God, wanted to know if he was going to die. Now, therefore, thus says the Lord, you shall not come down from your bed to which you have gone up, but you will surely die. So when he went out looking and he tried to find it, he was told by Elijah that he wasn't looking for the right king. God wasn't going to be behind him. And when the messengers returned to him and said to them, we have you, why have you come back? So in these first 4 verses of chapter 1, the king sends out the servants, and I think they go out to find Elijah in a nutshell. And Elijah comes back and tells him, too late. Went for the wrong God. My God, not happy. You die. That's pretty straightforward. But this is the power of Elijah. The power to make a statement like that. How can you make a statement that someone's going to die when they haven't died yet? You're not God, but he had the power of the Holy Spirit in him, I believe. Now, it goes, and when the messengers returned, and they told the king, and so they said to him, a man came up and met us and said, let's go return to the king and say to him, thus says the Lord, is it because there is no God in Israel that you are sinning to inquire a God of Ekron? Therefore you shall not come down from your bed to which you have gone up, but you shall surely die. Now, the king was pretty upset and sent a series of soldiers 3 times. First 2, they all died. 50 of them. Third one, they didn't want to die. So they got down on their knees and they asked Elisha that they were there for him. So what do people need to remember from these stories? The stories of the power of God, the power that he is present all the time and not other gods. And over, we have a lot of other gods. We have our video gods. We have our TV gods. We have our soap opera gods. We have drinking gods. We have drug gods. We have all kinds of vices that take us away from the true God. And the true God is only asking to please follow him, to let him live with them, Let him be part of their life and their decisions. That's all Jesus was trying to do, was let people know that God loved them. Well, in the Old Testament, I find that a lot of times these so-called religious groups forgot the main thing, and that was that God was there for them. So, in this story, which comes to an end about all of these Sumerians that were made blind, and then they could see. They could have killed them when they were blind. All of those soldiers that were fiery chariots that probably had swords that were way surpassed more than our human swords. We didn't kill them, but they were there. And the striking of a blind, that's something you can't do. That's something God can only do. And to have the whole army of Syria blinded. And then take them to somewhere where they should have been killed, but instead the king fed them. Why? I don't know. I'm just Mr. Dean. But I do know, I think it's a pretty interesting story, don't you? You find all of this stuff I've talked about in Second King, chapter 1, chapter 6. There's a few more interesting stories in there with the relationship of Elijah and Elisha. And of course, crossing the water. I mean, that's just something that I guess these prophets get used to. Moses, Joshua, Elijah, Elisha, and I'm sure there's others coming on down the road as I tell the stories of God and his world. So I welcome you today. I hope you're having a beautiful day. And today is kind of a hot day. It's like 105 degrees. Right now it's a nice cool breeze of 75. The wind is blowing and you can feel the Spirit of God in the air. I want to say thank you for watching this. And remember, God is there all around us, watching us. May God be with you. Love, Mr. D.